The front door shook hard at 3:07 a.m. "Ho, security, open up!" The voice was loud, angry, like they were doing a raid. My heart jumped, but I didn't panic. I was already awake. Old habits don't die. 20 years in the Army does that to you. Another bang hit the door. "You're in violation of community code. Open this door now." Through the window blinds, I saw two men in black jackets, flashlights, no patrol car, no marked vehicle. Just a white SUV with no plates on the front. My wife whispered from behind me, "Who is that?" I already knew. Karen. She'd been mad all week because I refused to remove the flagpole in my yard. Said it was too tall and not HOA approved. I showed her county approval papers. She didn't care. Now this. Another slam on the door. "If you don't open up, we'll enter the property." That's when I heard a calm voice from the hallway. "Dad, step back." My son, 22, United States Marine, just got back from deployment 2 months ago. He walked forward, steady, eyes sharp but controlled. He didn't grab a weapon. He grabbed his phone and hit record. Another shout from outside. "We have authority!" My son raised his voice just enough. "Under what law?" Silence. Then one of them barked, "HOA authority!" My son looked at me and gave a small nod. He unlocked the door, but kept the chain latched. "You have 10 seconds to show official ID and a warrant," he said calmly. One of the men stepped forward, shining a flashlight inside like he owned the place. "We don't need a warrant. HOA bylaws allow inspection." My son didn't blink. At 3 a.m., they hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. I stepped closer and spoke clearly. "This property is privately owned. You step inside without legal authority. That's criminal trespass." One of the men muttered, "Call Karen." There it was. My son smiled slightly, put her on speaker. A phone dialed. Then her voice came through, sharp and smug. "Just go inside. They've been warned." My son's expression changed. He spoke slowly so the camera picked up every word. "Ma'am, are you instructing these men to unlawfully enter a private residence?" She snapped back, "You don't scare me. The HOA runs this neighborhood." And that's when the first twist hit. My son stepped aside slightly and pointed to the small sign next to our doorbell. It wasn't decorative. It read, "Property under county jurisdiction. No HOA authority beyond common areas." Karen had tried to annex our street into full HOA control last year, but she failed. Because I never signed the updated agreement, and neither did 5 other homeowners. The men outside looked at each other. "You didn't tell us that," one whispered. Karen's voice grew louder on the phone. "They're bluffing!" My son shook his head. "No, ma'am. You're the one bluffing." He unlatched the chain just enough to slide a paper through the crack. County property record. Stamped, signed. "This home," he said calmly, "is not under HOA enforcement authority." Silence again. The men stepped back slightly, but Karen wasn't done. "Fine," she said coldly. "If they won't comply, call the police. Tell them there's suspicious activity." My wife gasped softly. "False report." At 3 a.m. That was her move. My son didn't look worried. Because what Karen didn't know was that the sheriff on night duty used to be under my command, and he already knew exactly who she was. The 2 fake security guys backed off the porch, whispering to each other. One of them looked nervous now. The other kept glancing at the SUV like he wanted to leave. Then we heard it. Real sirens. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady. Karen stayed on speaker. "Good. Let them explain why they're refusing inspection." My son stepped fully outside now, calm, hands visible, phone still recording. I followed right behind him. The patrol unit turned the corner and stopped in front of our house. Deputy Ramirez stepped out. He looked at me first, then at my son, then at the 2 men in black jackets, and his jaw tightened slightly. "Evening," he said calmly. Or should I say morning? One of the men rushed to speak. "Officer, we're HOA security. The homeowner is blocking a lawful inspection." Ramirez didn't respond right away. He looked at their jackets. No badge numbers, no county ID. He turned to me. "You call this in?" "No," I said. "She did." My son held up his phone. "We have audio of her instructing them to enter without a warrant." Karen's voice suddenly came through again from the phone speaker. One of the men was still holding. "Deputy, they've been violating community rules for weeks." Ramirez's expression changed. "Ma'am," he said clearly toward the phone, "why are you sending private individuals to a residence at 3 a.m.? They refused inspection," she shot back. "There is no emergency inspection clause at 3 a.m., he replied calmly. Then he looked at the two men. "IDs." They hesitated. That hesitation again. "IDs," he repeated firmer. One handed over a driver's license. The other admitted quietly, "We're contracted by the HOA. Ramirez nodded slowly. "You are not law enforcement. You have no authority to demand entry." Karen tried to interrupt. "They're authorized by the board." Ramirez cut her off. "The board does not outrank the Constitution." That line landed heavy in the quiet street. My son didn't smile, but I saw the pride in his eyes. Ramirez turned back to the two men. "Did you attempt to force entry?" One shook his head quickly. "No, sir." My son calmly rotated his phone screen and played the clip. "If you don't open up, we'll enter the property." "Clear as day." Ramirez's face hardened. He stepped closer to them. "You understand that's criminal intimidation?" The taller one swallowed hard. "We were told..." "By who?" Ramirez asked. Silence. Karen's breathing was now loud through the speaker. Ramirez held out his hand. "Ma'am, stay on the line." Then he looked directly at me. "You want to press charges?" I looked at my son. He nodded once. Not angry, just steady. I turned back to Ramirez. "Yes." The two men's confidence collapsed instantly. Wait, one said quickly. "We were just following orders." My son finally spoke again, voice calm but sharp. "Following illegal orders is still illegal." But this still wasn't the biggest twist. Because as Ramirez started writing down statements, he received a call on his radio. "Dispatch." He listened quietly, then looked at me with something different in his eyes. "Sir, apparently this isn't the first house tonight." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" I asked. Ramirez exhaled slowly. "She's been sending them door to door." My grip tightened without me realizing it. "Door to door?" I asked. Ramirez nodded slowly. 2 streets over. Same time, same jackets. Woke up an elderly couple. Told them they had 10 minutes to fix a roof violation or face legal action. My son's jaw flexed. Karen's breathing over the speaker got faster. "That's not what happened." Ramirez ignored her. "The husband is a disabled vet. Thought it was a real raid. Almost had a medical episode. That did it." My son stepped closer to the phone. "Ma'am, you sent men to threaten a disabled veteran at 3 a.m.? You people don't follow rules." She snapped. "Someone has to enforce order." "You are not law enforcement," Ramirez said sharply. The 2 fake security guys looked like they wanted to disappear. One whispered, "She told us the homes were under emergency review." Ramirez turned to him. "What emergency?" He hesitated. "She said there were complaints about unauthorized flag displays." The street went dead quiet. My son slowly looked at our flagpole. The American flag moved gently in the night air. That was the violation. Ramirez's face changed again. Not angry, not loud, just cold. "Take the phone," he said. One of the men handed it over carefully. Ramirez spoke clearly. "Ma'am, you are now being investigated for filing a false police report, harassment, and possible impersonation of authority through hired contractors. You can't arrest me for enforcing HOA policy," she yelled. "I'm not arresting you for policy," Ramirez replied. "I'm arresting you for what you did at 3 a.m. Silence. Then she said the worst possible thing. "Those houses don't even belong to them. The HOA controls that land." Ramirez slowly looked at me. I didn't speak. My son did. "That's funny," he said calmly. "Because the county map says otherwise." Second twist, Karen had quietly filed paperwork last year attempting to expand HOA jurisdiction into private lots. Most homeowners never knew. She counted on people not checking records. But I did. The day she tried to fine us over the flag, I pulled the county property file. And tonight, my son had that file open on his phone. Stamped, recorded, public record. Ramirez glanced at it and gave a short nod. "Ma'am, your expansion request was denied." Karen froze. "You don't have authority over these properties." Her voice cracked slightly. "They never told me that." "They did," Ramirez replied. "Certified letter. Signed receipt." My son looked at me quietly. She had been operating for months, knowing she had no power, threatening families anyway. Ramirez handed the phone back to the shaken contractor. "Put it on speaker again." Karen didn't speak this time. "Ma'am," Ramirez continued, "I need you to stay at your residence. Units are on the way." That's when her voice finally dropped from confident to scared. "You're choosing them over the board?" Ramirez answered calmly. "I'm choosing the law." The two fake security guys were placed in separate patrol cars for statements. Not cuffed yet, but not free either. The night air felt different now. Not tense. Clear. My son stood beside me, arms folded, watching the blue lights reflect off our driveway. "You okay?" I asked him quietly. He nodded once. "Dad, I didn't serve overseas to be bullied at home." That line stayed in the air, and down the street, more sirens began to echo, because this wasn't just about our house anymore. Karen had knocked on the wrong doors, and tonight, every single one of them was about to open. The sirens grew louder until the whole street was flashing red and blue. Two more patrol cars turned the corner, then a county supervisor vehicle. Neighbors' porch lights started flipping on one by one. Curtains moved. Phones came out. Karen's house, 3 doors down, was fully lit now. She stepped outside before the officers even knocked. Still in her robe, still holding her phone like it was a badge. "This is harassment!" she shouted. "I run this HOA." One of the senior officers stepped forward. "Ma'am, step off the driveway and keep your hands visible." She froze. "I have authority here," she yelled again. The officer didn't blink. "Not at 3 a.m. you don't." Behind him, Deputy Ramirez walked up with a folder in his hand. My folder. Copies of the county denial letter, property maps, audio transcripts my son had already emailed him. He handed the documents to the supervisor. The supervisor read quietly under the patrol lights. Then he looked at Karen. "Ma'am, did you receive a certified letter from the county denying your request to expand HOA enforcement to private lots?" She hesitated. That hesitation again. I don't remember." Ramirez stepped in calmly. "We have the signed receipt. Your signature." The supervisor held up a copy. Her name, clear, signed, dated, delivered 6 months ago. The entire street was silent now. No whispers. Just cameras recording. Karen tried one last move. "They're lying. That veteran down the street is behind this. They're all against me." At that exact moment, a truck rolled slowly into the street. It was the disabled veteran Ramirez mentioned earlier. He stepped out carefully, cane in hand, wife beside him. He looked at Karen and said in a steady voice, "You sent men to my door and told my wife we had 10 minutes before legal seizure." Karen didn't respond. The supervisor turned to her. "Ma'am, are you using contractors to enforce denied jurisdiction?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That was the moment the power broke. The supervisor nodded once to Ramirez. "Place her in custody." The cuffs clicked. Not dramatic, not loud, but final. Karen gasped. "You can't do this!" "I'm the president," the supervisor replied calmly. "You were." That was the climax. Neighbors who had stayed quiet for months stepped forward now. One woman held up printed emails. Another showed violation letters with fake citations. Someone else said their car was towed after refusing to pay. A security compliance fee. All recorded, all documented. Karen looked around like she expected someone to save her. No one did. As they guided her toward the patrol car, she locked eyes with me. "You think you won?" she said through clenched teeth. I didn't raise my voice. "You tried to control land that was never yours." She was placed inside the vehicle. Door shut, lights still flashing. My son stood beside me, shoulders straight, calm as ever. The supervisor walked over. "Sir, you and your son did the right thing." I shook my head slightly. "We just opened the door." He gave a small nod. "Sometimes that's all it takes." The patrol cars slowly pulled away. The street stayed quiet for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. The disabled veteran raised his hand toward my son and gave him a salute. My son returned it, simple, respectful, no speeches, just understanding. And as the lights disappeared down the road, the neighborhood finally felt like it belonged to the people who actually lived in it. By morning, the news had already spread beyond our street. Not TV news, neighborhood news, group chats, community pages, door-to-door conversations. For the first time, people weren't whispering. They were talking openly. The county placed the HOA under investigation within 48 hours. Financial records were pulled. Contracts reviewed. Turns out Karen had been paying those security guys from HOA funds without a vote. Fines collected from families were used to threaten the same families. It unraveled fast. The rest of the board tried to distance themselves, but emails showed they approved midnight inspections. They knew about the denied expansion letter. They just assumed no one would challenge it. They misjudged one thing. They judged the wrong house. A week later, a special community meeting was held in the middle of the cul-de-sac. Not inside Karen's living room. Not behind closed doors, outside, open air. Everyone invited. County officials attended. So did nearly every homeowner. Karen wasn't there. She had been formally charged with harassment, filing false reports and misuse of HOA funds. She avoided jail with a deal, but she lost her position permanently and had to pay back thousands in fines. The fake security contract was terminated. The HOA president role was dissolved entirely. And here's the twist no one expected. The county gave the neighborhood a choice: rebuild the HOA from scratch with strict oversight, or dissolve it completely. The vote wasn't even close. Dissolved. Cheers broke out. Not loud, but real. No more midnight knocks. No more fake authority. No more threats over flagpoles or mailbox shades. Just neighbors. The disabled veteran walked up to my son after the meeting. He looked him in the eyes and said, "You stood your ground without raising your voice. That's strength." My son smiled slightly. "I learned from him," he said, nodding toward me. I didn't say much. I just looked around at the homes, lawns, kids riding bikes again, without tension in the air. That evening, we held a small block barbecue. Nothing fancy. Just burgers, folding chairs, and laughter that didn't feel forced. As the sun set, the American flag in our yard moved gently in the breeze. No one complained. No one measured its height. My wife leaned closer and whispered, "Feels different now." "It is," I said, "because this was never about paint, or paperwork, or even Karen. It was about something simple. If you own your home, no one gets to scare you out of it." My son looked at the street, calm and proud. "I fought for this country overseas," he said quietly. "Didn't think I'd have to defend it in my own driveway." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't defend it," I said. "You reminded them what it stands for." The camera in my mind pulled back slowly. Kids laughing. Neighbors talking freely. No flashing lights. No fake badges. Just peace. And the viral line people would remember from that night? "Freedom doesn't knock at 3 a.m. But bullies do. And this time, the door didn't break, the bully did.